All right. Well, greetings, everyone. I'm Kendall with Brandt Travel. For those of you that may have forgotten what I looked like because it's been so long since we've seen you in person, it is so nice to see so many of your faces today and read your names. We are excited to have Karen Kugler with us from Celebrity Cruises. We have several of the Brandt Travel team on the Zoom call as well. You might want to click to the right or left and see more people on the different pages. If you click the participants at the bottom, you can read all the names of other neighbors and friends that might be on as well. We are going to do our presentation today featuring some of our great travel opportunities for next year and a new released winter annual trip for 2022. So we have some exciting things to talk about. Karen is going to give us as much information as she can about the current state of cruising. And then we will take a question and answer time at the end. So we have everyone muted right now. And when we do get to the question and answer time, we will ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your questions. But cheers. Good to see you all. And without further ado, we will let Karen begin.
Thanks, Kendall. Really appreciate it. I am so grateful for the opportunity to just connect with folks again. It's nice to see those faces that are out there that are brave enough to turn their cameras on. I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for everybody that's joined. As Kendall mentioned, we're going to talk today about cruising in general, and then specifically about some group departures with Brandt Travel and the new date on the group departure, the winter annual. We'll look at that, take a peek at that, and go. I will start off by saying we can't wait to get back to service. We are so excited. We are so ready. We are working diligently and have been through this entire pause. It's not that we have sat back and waited at all to say, gee, when are they going to let us come back? We have put so many wheels in motion, and we have so many contingency plans for the time that the CDC says, you know what, it's the right time now. I am very, very delighted to be part of a company, the Royal Caribbean Group, that has really taken the lead for our industry, our segment of hospitality, and that's the cruise industry, to be in the forefront of what's happening. Now, I know that when we open this up for Q&A at the end, you guys are going to ask me questions that I'm just not going to be able to answer because protocols have not been finalized yet. But I do want to share with you some of the things that we are doing and things that I am very aware about for the future of cruising and so forth. As I had mentioned, we've kind of taken the position, Royal Caribbean Group, along with Norwegian Cruise Line, put together a healthy sail panel a number of months ago, and we hired the best in the world, really, to help advise us, whether it was doctors or scientists. We had folks that had been former heads of the CDC, former heads of the Department of Health, and just people that really are experts in their field for crowd management, just advising us on what the future of cruising in the short term is going to look like. And in August, they released what we refer to as our healthy return to sail protocols to the CDC. Now, releasing that information and what they thought was going to be the safest for our guests, for our crew, and for those ports that we would visit and all the people that live in those areas. Basically, it was a 74-page document. Now, let me be very clear in sharing with you, in all the meetings that happened with these 11 folks, the CDC was present in every one of the meetings at an executive level. So the information that that this healthy sail panel turned over to them as far as protocols that they thought would allow you to be as safe on a cruise ship as you would be in Main Street, wherever, was information that they said this is it. It wasn't new information. And then CDC finally said, you know what? We've reviewed this. We're opening up a pathway for you to return to sailing. And we're in the final stages now of finalizing our onboard protocols and so forth. But we know that it's going to start basically with 5 things. Prevention is key for us. The mitigation, if someone should be on board a ship that comes down with COVID or exhibits symptoms of COVID, how do we mitigate that? The destinations that we visit, how do we protect our guests when they're in port, as well as the folks that live in those destinations and our vendor partners in those areas? What do we do to mobilize if we do have situations where people are on board and we suspect that they have contracted COVID while in port or shown symptoms once they get on board, and then validating all of the protocols that we put in place to really make sure that we are operating in the safest way possible. I will tell you, we believe firmly that understanding and getting people doing proper testing prior to boarding our ships, and then having testing available once they're on board should any symptoms appear while they're there, is going to be the key. We have so many options and available for you to review at your leisure if you'd like. It is on our website, the celebritycruises.com website, and many places across the internet. You can just Google, if you'd like, the Healthy Return to Service or Sailing Protocols for a Royal Caribbean Group, and you can review at your leisure all 74 pages of the recommendations that they've made and what we will be working to execute on. So again, we're not sitting on our hands. We're not just waiting around for somebody to give us the green light. We have got steps in place. We've already started the process for returning crew to some ships. We're taking huge precautions for testing them prior, making sure that they're tested once they've arrived to the pre-hotels, making sure that they are quarantined for 14 days before they board the ship, and then just taking every precaution that we possibly can. So basically, that's what I can share with you at this point as far as protocols are concerned. I know Kendall has been right on top and communicating with me on a regular basis when the actual, what is going to be required, what do we need to do. We will communicate that information to you immediately as soon as it's published there. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of the destinations and specific itineraries that are coming up with the Brandt Travel group travelers in there. We'll talk first about Celebrities Canada and New England. We're very, very excited. Obviously, the prime time for visiting this area will be late summer through the fall. If you're going for the fall foliage, or if you're going for the colors, you definitely want to be in the fall. And of course, that's when their group travel is. And we'll get to that specific itinerary in just a minute. I want to be sure that you are aware this is on the Celebrity Summit. This ship is a beautiful, beautiful ship that has been revitalized. She's been revolutionized. We did that last year, and she is absolutely in pristine shape. If you don't recall, maybe you've seen one of my prior presentations when we were still doing that in person to person. She was basically gutted, and we recreated new staterooms. We just did a total revamp of the ship on public areas. You will notice, if you have seen or been on board Celebrity Edge, you will notice a very similar color palette for Celebrity Summit in these revitalized ships. We have the retreat area, which is our suite area that is exclusive to our suite guests. We have the lounge and sun deck on board Celebrity Summit. The staterooms, again, not just the suites, but even our standard staterooms have been completely revitalized and refurbished. Gorgeous new bathrooms, all marble and chrome and crystal, and they are so pretty. And that was always one of my biggest challenges in these beautiful Millennium class ships, was the bathrooms previously. And that is just a thing of the past because they're absolutely gorgeous now. These ships are a lovely size. They hold right less fully loaded than 2,000 guests. Now that will change, of course, as we're initiating our return to service, because we'll start in with fewer guests than previously. But just take a look at the beautiful dining rooms and how open and light and airy these public venues are. Just a total departure from what we've seen in the past on these ships. And it's so much fun to have them because of the size of the ship and the fact that they can get into many of the ports that our larger ships cannot access. Now, this is a picture of Celebrity Summit, and if you've cruised on her before, you might not remember that she looked the same on the outside. Even the hull has been redone on these ships to give them a much more efficient transfer through the water. It's almost seamless at this point in time, and we're so grateful, right down to the Teflon coating on the hull of these ships. Now let's take a look real quick at this itinerary. As I had mentioned, a wonderful time to visit the Canada, New England area is during the fall, and that's because of the colors. Now, while we cannot control Mother Nature, we do know that if you go in late September up through about mid-October, you have typically the greatest opportunity to see the most vibrant colors around, and this is right in the heart of that time. This departure is October 4th, and it will be a 12-night round trip from Boston departure. Going out of Boston, oops, got ahead of myself. My goodness, got a real sensitive mouse here. Boston is a wonderful, wonderful city to embark. If you have the opportunity and some flexibility in your timing, it's a fun place to go maybe a day or two ahead of time, because there's so much to see in Boston, such a historical area. It just has so much to offer, whether you're talking about culinary experiences, whether you're talking about historical experiences, or just the beauty of the area. Please, please go in a day early. It takes the pressure off flying in the day of departure on the cruise. Plus, again, it's a beautiful destination to visit. The first stop will be Portland, Maine. Portland has often been considered one of the top 10 places in the U.S. to live. It's not a big city. It's a little bit less than 70,000 guests there. There's some great shopping in the Freeport, Maine area. There's a lot of good sightseeing. You can do the half-day tours to the 3 prominent lighthouses that are there. Visit the Museum of Portland Headlight. That's Maine's oldest lighthouse in Cape Elizabeth. There's just so many things to see and do in this area, and it's a very, very easy area to get around. We go then to St. John, New Brunswick, in the Bay of Fundy there. This area has got a beautifully restored historic waterfront that you can walk along. You can do the city tour. We have both half-day and full-day tours. One of the really cool things is the Reversing Falls Rapids. It's probably one of the most well-known attractions, and that is when twice daily the tides of the Bay of Fundy rise faster than the river can actually empty. And when that happens, the tide attempts to push the river back, and it pushes the river upstream, and then the tide ebbs and the river appears to reverse itself and flow over the rocks, creating the appearance of reversing rapids. And it's just a really, really cool thing there. Just a fun phenomenon that you'll only find in that area. You can also visit the twin covered bridges there in St. Martin's. There's just the lighthouses. Again, a very, very pretty area, very picturesque, and very unique to any other area in the world, actually. We move on then to Sydney, Nova Scotia. In this area, it's just northeast of the Cape Breton Island, and is the largest metropolitan area on the island. This area hails back to the mid to late 1700s. It's a small port city and has been actually where many, many of the immigrants into Canada actually came through these areas. So it's been home to French Acadians, Eastern Europeans, Scotsmen, Africans. You just see real blending of cultures in this area. We do have the city tours, but I would always recommend in this area that you take the guided walk of Sydney. It's small enough, easy enough to get around, and there's a walking tour that's fun to go on. You'll visit the colonial town of Old Sydney and the Louisburg Fortress. There's just so many things to see and do. Again, a lot of history in this area. And don't forget that the time of year that we're looking at and talking about here, you can just actually take some of the tours outside of the area, and the scenery will be unique and gorgeous as well. On to Quebec City. Now, this is an overnight on this departure, and I'm sure if you've heard one of my presentations before, you will remember that I have shared this is the #1 rated port in the world by our cruising guests. Over and over, we do surveys. I know you guys have turned in the surveys before, and we ask you not only to talk about your onboard experience, but which ports you enjoyed the most and so forth. And Quebec City is over and over rated as the best in the world. It is known as the Paris of America, of North America. It is very, very European. If you want to have that European fix and you don't want to fly to Europe this next year, Quebec City is a great spot for you. There's so many things to do in this area, whether it's Montmorency Falls. We have tours that will drive along the St. Lawrence River to Montmorency Falls, I'll get it out, which are actually 1.5 times the size of Niagara Falls. You can board a tram there to the summit of the mountain for breathtaking views. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area. You can go to the lower town area where the first settlement is recreated in a beautifully restored market square. There's, again, a lot of history from the 17th and 18th century in the stone architecture there. There is also located the oldest standing Catholic church in North America. And again, lots of tour opportunities, but it's a very, very easy area to get around. You want to be sure, because you are there overnight, that you take advantage of dining out. And if you can do a dinner out, whether you do it just with friends and acquaintances or you go on one of the tours, you really want to take advantage of exploring in the nighttime, in the evening. These cities, what you see in the daytime are really the tourist areas. What you see at night is a true taste of the culture of the area in there. From there, we go to Charlottetown on Prince Edward Island. This area supposedly has some of the best seafood in the world, mussels specifically, they pride themselves on saying. This is actually both an area for great nautical charm as well as Victorian charm. It is where Avonlea Village is, of course, made famous by Anne of Green Gables. That's where Lucy Maud Montgomery gave Cavendish her favorite novel, Anne of Green Gables. This is pretty much a 19th century hometown feel. For if you've read Anne of Green Gables, you'll recognize a lot of the spots that are outlined here in Charlottetown. You can explore the Victorian era streets. The harbor is easily, you can walk up and down the boardwalk there. It's easy to do on foot. You don't need tours for doing that. Great centrally located tourist attractions. So it's an area that you can get around very, very easily in that area. Then we go on to Bar Harbor. I love saying Bahaba, the way those guys up in the Northeast say it. It just cracks me up to hear them. They park the car in the garage and go to Bahaba. But this area is very, very picturesque. Acadia National Park, again, for colors, unbelievable. If you're a hiker or an outdoor enthusiast, you may want to check out the hike up Cadillac Mountain. Again, another wonderful spot for seafood, lobster, this time of year is unbelievable. I can't get enough of the lobster rolls, whether you're talking about Bar Harbor, or you're talking about Boston, or any of these areas. The cruise will finally return to Boston on the final day, and that's where you will head out. Whether you're driving, flying, however you plan to get home there, we will return you to Boston. And again, I can't stress enough that either a pre or a post day in that city for exploring on your own is a great, great option. So we're going to go from one coast to the next coast in here, and we are going to move over from East Coast travel to the Pacific Coast travel. And this area is an absolutely incredible area if you are a wine enthusiast. I will tell you, I have had so many people do this Pacific Coastal cruise, and we used to call them wine cruises, and I think that probably scores very high on the wine enthusiast list, but there's a lot of other good things to see in this area as well. This coastal cruise is a 10-night cruise on board Celebrity Millennium. So what I shared with you about Celebrity Summit also applies to Millennium. She was completely revitalized right after Summit was revitalized. So she is very, very new, squeaky clean, new staterooms, beautiful new public areas. All of that will apply to Celebrity Millennium as well. This cruise is a little bit earlier in the fall. It's September 9th through the 19th, and it originates in Vancouver. Now, I will tell you that I love Vancouver. It's a great area to go, and because this is not a round trip cruise, I would suggest that you plan to have a full pre-day in Vancouver before your cruise begins, as well as maybe some extra time whenever you culminate in Los Angeles. Vancouver is a beautiful area. There's a lot to see and do in this area. You can do the gondola rides to the Sky Highway, take it down from sea level all the way up to the top there. It's beautiful. You get just an all-encompassing view of this area. There's a lot of history in Vancouver as well. The Gaslight area is just a beautiful little town and very easy to get around on foot. Your first stop will be actually in Seattle. We have a lot of options, whether it's the Puget Sound cruise, all the way to the Salmon Feast, the Chihuly Gardens and Glass. That's a just spectacular walk through that area in the Chihuly Garden area. You can do the wine country wine tasting, where you take the excursion out for the full day and go out, and we stop at several different vineyards for the wine tastings in that area. So lots to see and do in Seattle. Of course, Seattle is known for Pike Place Market. It's just a fun spot to go through. This time of year is especially robust in that area. The flowers that are grown in that area and what you can see, even if you don't get out of Pike Place Market, even if you don't go out, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous area there. We then go on to Astoria. Astoria is actually right at the mouth of Columbia River. And whether you want to visit the Astoria Ale Trail, go down that area, Fort Clatsop, Mount St. Helens, you want to go to the first U.S. post office that was west of the Rockies. Tons of history in this area as well, because this is, again, where Lewis and Clark spent, in their expedition, spent the winter of 1805 through 1806. From a culinary standpoint, incredible food, great wine, but there are also a lot of breweries in Astoria. So if we have beer enthusiasts on this call or on that cruise, you'll find a lot to do and sample in that area. Our overnight port for this cruise will actually be San Francisco. And, you know, what better place to be overnighted where you can get out and get into the wine country, into the Sonoma area if you'd like. There are tours that are available there. It's going to be interesting to see after, yay, Chris, there you go, Kendall, I know what you like. It's going to be interesting to see how all of that transpires. I know that area has been hard hit again this year, but I know that the recovery in that has been phenomenal over the last few years from previous fires in there. And of course, San Francisco's home to Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, Fisherman's Wharf, just so much to see and do. A fun area to be. It's easy to get around because you've got the trolley cars, you've got shore excursions that will take you out there. There's a lot of areas that you can actually just walk through. And it's just a vibrant city with so much activity going on. And again, a great spot to overnight in. We go then to Monterey. Monterey, of course, is right on the southern edge of the Monterey Bay, about 120 miles south of San Francisco. You've got the aquarium, which is world renowned. They have their own Fisherman's Wharf. This area has an incredible area also for wine tasting as far as vineyards are concerned. There's just a lot of different options there, whether you choose to go to just one vineyard and do an extensive tour and tastings there, or if you choose to go through multiples, you have a lot of options here. And of course, if because we have the full day in here, if you want to do the beautiful coastal drive from Monterey down to Carmel, that's an option for you as well. That's just a 17-mile drive, but it is very windy and beautiful, and you're right on the coast, and it's just an exceptional stop. From there, we go to Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is a great spot. If you can visit the Ronald Reagan Library there. The old mission of Santa Barbara is very popular as well. Stearns Wharf. And I keep repeating myself, but this is a great spot for wine tasting as well. This entire cruise, there is not a port that we visit that doesn't have just beautiful options. Whether you want to do the wine trains, whether you want, again, to do multiple vineyards in a day, or just take your time moving from some of the wine bars in that area. You don't even have to go specifically into the vineyards. There are so many exceptional wine bars set up there, and they all have something that might be unique to each one, depending on what vineyard they may partner with or what focus they have in there. Excellent culinary options as well. As we go through this area, some of the best cuisine in the nation certainly originates on the West Coast, and there are some excellent options as far as named chefs that have restaurants available in this area along the West Coast. So Kendall mentioned that the winter annual getaway has been moved. Obviously, based on the current environment that we're in, they've decided to move the February 21 winter annual to March 4th through the 13th of 2022. Now, I want to be sure that you guys are familiar that there are options for you, that if you were booked on this year's winter annual, you do have the opportunity to lift and ship. Basically, just take advantage of moving your cruise that you have intact at that price with those same amenities and so forth to a year later. You have flexibility for 1 month on either side of that date, and this date certainly qualifies. I know many of you have already made those changes in there. I would also tell you that if you do have a future cruise certificate from a canceled cruise with Celebrity Cruises and you want to apply it towards that, that's certainly an option for you to do as well. Take a look at this. This is a 9-night onboard Celebrity Equinox that was also revitalized this past year. There's a wide variety of categories available to you, from veranda staterooms, concierge, as well as aqua class. We always enjoy having our suite guest as well, whether you're part of the winter annual. You certainly have availability to book into suites as well. I want to also share with you guys, now through the end of December, we are awarding double points of our club points to help you get to the next level with our Captain's Club for any new booking that is made there. So that will happen automatically for you if you're booking between now and December 31st. And I also want to talk briefly about our Cruise with Confidence. None of us have a crystal ball. And if we do, it's probably pretty cloudy right now. So nobody knows exactly what it's going to look like as return to service comes, as we stumble through the winter. And you know, it's been predicted all along that there would be an uptick in COVID over the winter months when kids were back in school, when people were back in confined areas. We want to be sure you know that you can book a cruise with confidence. Any cruise that you book between now and November 30th, and this has gone on since March, you will have the opportunity to cancel within 48 hours of departure. Now, what would happen is if you were inside final payment and you decided 3 or 4 days before the cruise was coming around that you just didn't think this was a good time for you to be able to go, you will have the opportunity to cancel your cruise and to receive 100% future cruise credit for the amount that you paid for that cruise. You can do that right up to 48 hours prior to departure. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to tell us why you're doing it. You just have that option. We want to be sure that you know that's available to you. So don't stress if you're trying to decide, do I want to cruise? Do I not want to? You have that available to you. Now, obviously, if it's outside of final payment time, you can cancel. You'll get a full refund. If you've booked with a standard deposit, if you've booked with a non-refundable deposit, that portion will still stay non-refundable there. But if you book just the standard, you get 100% refund if it's outside of final payment. Inside of final payment, you can cancel with the Cruise with Confidence without any problem at all. Additionally, want to be sure that you're aware that we do have a best price guarantee that if you book between now and November 30th, and this has gone on for a number of months, if we have an offer that comes up that offers you something better, you've got more amenities, you've got whatever the case may be, you will have the opportunity to take advantage of that best price guarantee as well. Something that we have not even announced to the public yet, it goes into effect tomorrow, is a new pricing strategy for us that's called Always Included. Any new bookings that are made from tomorrow forward will include 3 of our 4 amenities that we have. They will include the classic beverage package, your prepaid gratuities or tips, and then we will also include our surf Wi-Fi with that. All 3 of those options will be available to you and will be included complimentary. Now, don't worry if you're already booked on one of these cruises and you've chose the onboard credit, you will still get your onboard credit. Just moving forward for Always Included, it's these 3 amenities. If you choose to upgrade, we have some Elevate and Indulge packages that you can purchase that will give you additional onboard credit, some upgrades to beverage packages, some upgrades to the Wi-Fi and so forth, but Always Included for our first and second guests starting tomorrow and moving forward will be our classic beverage package, Wi-Fi, and tips. That is new for us. And with that, I will say we can't wait, guys. I'm happy to go ahead and open it up if you give me just a minute to figure out how to do it and make sure that I can try and answer any questions that you have. So let me get you guys in here, and I'm going to unmute you. And if you have a question, all you have to do is unmute yourself and the whole group can then hear you. And I will do my best to answer your question or get you the answer. Okay. Any questions?
This is Ron Reiner. Could
Ron.
you please elaborate on what are some of the things that are going to be done, specifics, to ensure that people getting on board are free from any illnesses due to COVID?
Ron, that was the very first point that I said. I know somebody's going to ask me something that I can't tell you specifics, but I can tell you in general what I know. And as soon as we have those specifics, I will be sure that I share them with you. I do know that testing will be required. And what we are using now is the PCR test, which are all the information that I have says that the PCR test will be required, which is the most comprehensive, accurate test that is out there. I don't have the timing to be able to share with you at this moment as far as whether it's a test that has to be done 3 days ahead of time, 5 days ahead of time, what it will look like when you step on board. I know that we are looking at all kinds of options for not just pre-testing, but also onboard rapid testing as well. But I don't have that information at this time, and I'm sorry, I wish I did. It's just still in the finalization stages. Don't give up. Hang
Okay,
tight, because that information will be coming.
have you heard anything about vaccinated passengers? So if you are vaccinated and have some kind of a certificate that states that, is that part of the process possibly?
It's very possible that it is. And again, I so wish I could give you more details. If you would like, you can go in and read all 74 pages of those recommendations. I do know there is talk. I don't think that I have seen anything that says people have to be vaccinated, but I do know we are working very closely with the CDC to explore all the options for what will be used, whether it's testing, vaccine, therapies that are out there, what actually will be considered acceptable for you to be on board. And again, I wish I could give you more information, but it's just not available at this point for us. I am so sorry.
This is Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Will you be requiring masks to be worn all the time?
Don't know. Again, I have seen, these are great questions. Go ahead, Kendall. You're muted. I can't see you. Just a second, Kendall.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I know it's difficult for Karen to speak specifics. I did read the 74 pages of information that was sent over to the CDC. And again, these were recommendations that the Healthy Panel had come up with. Whether they'll be completely accepted or not by the CDC and put into effect, we don't know. One of the things that I will share is that Richard Fain, who is the head of Royal Caribbean International, he has briefed us very frequently on expectations moving forward. And one thing that he did say was that they are going to be very cognizant of maintaining the feel of the cruise, that they want that to be at the forefront. But with that being said, masks are most likely going to be required in all public spaces, not while you're eating, not in the cabin, but in public spaces to prevent COVID from spreading. And I think that they also mentioned they are going to continue to review the protocols over time so that anytime a change is needed, it will be implemented. So it's a very fluid situation. From when they do initially come out with what is required, we're going to have to continue to watch over time. But from what we're hearing for all travel, not just cruise travel, but for land travel, even going and flying to a resort in the Caribbean, mask mandates in public spaces are being stated and looked at as a requirement. So I think we have to be comfortable with the idea that it's not going to be specific to cruises. It's going to be something we're going to have to incorporate travel regardless of the type of travel that you take.
We are trying very, very hard. It is our goal to manage where we can do physical distancing from a limited capacity standpoint. Also, in many cases, we may be like for entertainment, we may go from having 2 shows a night to having 3 shows a night to have fewer people, even though we've got a more limited capacity on board. What we don't want to do is to set a stage for failure. We want very much, to Kendall's point, to have it be a great cruise experience for you, but also to be doing things that make sense from a safety standpoint. Again, until they're finalized, I can't tell you. I have heard masks in the public areas, but not necessarily so like out in the pool area and so forth, where physical distancing can actually occur. You know, that hopefully will take care of itself. But we will have all of these specifics ironed out, and we hope in the very, very near future. We're just waiting for the CDC to come back with the suggestions that the Healthy Sail panel has made and said, yes, we agree, this would make for a good experience. This will help mitigate any excess opportunity for COVID to be spread in there. I just wish I could be more specific, but until those protocols are actually confirmed, there's not information that I can give you on specifics.
Do you know when test cruises may start?
I will tell you, we are chomping at the bit to go. We have a plan in place as a company, as I feel most cruise lines probably do. We are planning as we speak. We have crew that is coming back to our ships now. We will be doing some trial runs that will be open to, that will first be executed by our crew only, and then we will be on board with employees and employee families and so forth, so that we really cannot just talk in theory about what this looks like, but we can actually execute on it, because it's like anything else. It sounds real good in theory, but until you actually get in there and start handling and managing that number of guests on board, I'm sure there'll be things that we'll tweak even after the CDC has made all these approvals. So we have plans for that over the next several weeks. And as soon as we feel comfortable that we have the execution down, and again, this all pins the CDC's approval on getting these final protocols in place, then we will execute on our own. And as soon as we've done that, we will invite our travel partners. Kendall and her team will be invited to come on board so that they can actually speak to you from a firsthand experience of what it's like and what this looks like and what to expect when you get on board. And we very definitely believe that very early in the first of the year, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we will be back in the water again with guests. That's what my crystal ball shows.
This is Marianne Delaberto, and I'm eager to get back to cruising myself. My husband and I love being on Celebrity a lot, but I have to admit, for seasoned cruisers, this doesn't seem, the word cruise itself, connotes something free and easy and open, and somehow this fails to meet that standard. And I guess I'm really curious how many of us are going to want to come back with all these protocols that are going to be really still fairly restrictive. Do you have any, thoughts or concerns about that as a line?
I can tell you we have for Q2 and Q3 of next year, we are humbled and amazed at the number of people that are booking at this point in time. Our Q1 is very soft because people are just not sure when we're going to be back, I think, but we just continue to be amazed. And I will tell you, until about 2 weeks ago, we thought for sure it's going to be those diehard cruisers that are the ones that are interested in coming back. They're the only ones. People that have never cruised before are probably going to be more concerned than ever and not go. And that's not even holding true for us. We're somewhat intrigued by the number of first-time cruisers that whenever they're either going to our travel partners or phoning us for information, have never cruised before. So we're very, very hopeful that the industry is going to rebound sooner rather than later. We do know it's going to look different. And I will guarantee you, I think you said your name was Mary Ann, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Mary Ann, we are so anxious to get it back to some semblance of normalcy, in that we don't want to sacrifice health for that. So I feel your pain in that. I certainly do. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to get on board and actually experience it myself so I can tell you firsthand, this part's changed. This felt very familiar. You know, I couldn't do this, but there was no problem doing these things. So until we actually have that opportunity, I don't really know how to respond to your comments. I share them. I share the question marks, but I do think people in general are learning to exist differently. I mean, whether it's going to the grocery store wearing a mask. I just came back from vacation this past week, and I was amazed at how adept I'm getting at grabbing my mask when I get out of a car, because used to I would get all the way to the front door or something and go, oh darn, I got to go back and get my mask. I mean, now it's like on there, I've got the little thing that snaps it onto my jacket. And, you know, I was in and out of the places that I was going last week on vacation, and pretty much everyone was following by the guidelines for the local area as far as wearing masks. I think that will probably be the biggest change that you will feel once you're on board. I think getting on board is going to be, we have a lot of protocols in place that have benefited us very well as far as the facial recognition and those steps that we had taken previously that was almost a touch-free check-in anyway, and we were well down that road. So once we understand what all the testing and so forth is going to look like to get you on board, I think things will be hopefully more familiar than we all think they might be when it comes to cruising. Not say there won't be some changes, but I think it'll be more noticeable in the numbers than it actually will be in the process. That's my hope.
This is Don and Doris Vennegrund. This is a question you might be able to answer. We shifted already to that March 4th, 2022. And I'm wondering, at what capacity are you booking?
Again, that's a protocol that is up to the CDC to confirm for us. Currently, what we are anticipating when we come back into service is about 50%. We anticipate, and again, we don't know what COVID is going to look like at the end of next year. We anticipate by the end of 2021 to hopefully be close to full capacity in there. But I think it will be a graduated or tiered come back from that. We will start at the 50%, 60% area, then we'll move to the 75%, and then we will continue to increase. One thing that is unique to Celebrity over many other brands, and I've always touted it, but for different reasons, is we have a much greater space to guest ratio than many other brands out there. You have anywhere from about 20 to about 22, 24% more space per guest on our ships anyway, because we don't load them up to the numbers, even though the ship and the tonnage would hold a much higher number. We are completely full at lower numbers than many other brands with similar size ships.
Are the Nallies from Texas, and we booked prior to COVID. Never had even considered that there would be anything like this going on. Has anything been done to address that group that did book last year, similar to what you're doing with those that are booking now, as far as, you know, no questions asked, we can cancel out?
You bet. You're covered under that. You're completely covered. If you book prior to November 30th, it doesn't matter if you booked last year or you booked today, you are covered under that Cruise with Confidence. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
We want to take care of you guys that were early bookers.
How do you get to ask a question? I don't, not that I want to.
Any other questions? Okay, Frank, let's go. What can I answer for you?
This is Frank LeGrand, and I have a question. Do you have any kind of pricing information on the fall foliage cruise for next year for 21?
You bet. Kendall or any of her team can help you out with that. If you just want to reach out to them, or I'm sure it's Frank LeGrand, Kendall, if you can see.
Yes,
And
Frank will send you a copy of the flyer with the pricing on it. And that goes for anyone. If you saw one of the trips featured today that you would like specifics on, you can just reply to the constant contact email that had the link to our Zoom today. Just reply to that and let me know what you would like. I'd be happy to send that over and we'll get you taken care of.
Kendall, I would love if we can have the opportunity, and I know everyone's time is precious, but once the protocols are actually announced, I would love to have an opportunity for anyone that would like to participate in a call where we can drill down to specifics, because I think that'll be very advantageous and people will feel better when they know exactly what is required.
Yes, we were so hopeful that was going to be today, but you know, with these new things, I think the key to this year is flexibility and moving forward with travel. We're going to have to look at that as the key word. One thing I can tell you from the Brandt team is that we are very committed to making sure that you are aware of all of the procedures, protocols, any changes to cancellation policies. As soon as that information is available, we will make sure that you are aware. And like I said, things are going to continue to change over time with protocols. Things will be added, things will be removed, and it'll be our job to be in the know so that we can share that with you.
I don't know.
Anything else I can answer for you guys?
What is, this is Rich Crater again. I'm not that advanced of a cruiser. What's the classic beverage package? What does that mean?
Classic beverage package is a package that includes for you unlimited drinks from sodas and coffees and adult beverages up to $9 a drink. If it's something, say, it's your rum and Coke and it's covered, it's not a problem, but you would really like to try a fancy martini, we will cover the cost of that for as many of those fancy drinks as you want, up to $9 a drink for the entire time that you are on board. And that does include your specialty coffees, sodas, and again, adult beverages up to that amount. There's a slightly different scale for the beers on board, but whether it's wine or a martini. And if you do want a nice one and it happens to be $11, you would just pay the $2 differential in that for that higher price drink.
Not a big deal.
Thank you.
And I will tell you, I don't have very many Brandt travel groups that don't use the classic beverage package. That's almost always one of the chosen amenities in the past when you had a choice in there, because there's a lot of cocktail parties that happen and go around and get-togethers, and that seems to be a favorite for these group travelers.
You are right about that. Okay, well, if we don't have any additional questions, I'd like to thank you all again for tuning in with us, and thank Karen Kugler for her great presentation. Just as a reminder, any of the trips that you heard about today that you would like additional details on, you can feel free to send us an email. You can simply reply to the email you received with the link for today's presentation and ask for the trip information you're most interested in. We'll send it right to you. And again, we will have a follow-up presentation once these specific protocols are available, and make sure that you have that information. But I wish you all a wonderful afternoon. Have a great week. It's been great to see your smiling faces, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey, Kendall.
Mm-hmm.
One last question.
Okay.
If we joined late, sorry, forgot the time. Did you record it so we can watch the full presentation later?
I did record it. And so I will send you, I'm going to put it on our YouTube channel on Brandt Travels YouTube, and I will send you the link.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, guys. You're very appreciated. Stay safe, enjoy, and hope to see you on a cruise in the very near future.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.